Well, Bismillah. As you said, I mean, it's not a new thing. One of the things about our civilization is we have a kind of political creation myth of the nation state that argues that the nation state emerged, the ideological nation state emerged out of an attempt to become an arbiter, a peacemaker between these religious sectarianism. So in that creation myth, it basically states that during the 16th and 17th century, you had these wars of religion. That's what they're called. And so the nation state emerges out of that and kind of creates peace and a secular society that enables religions to live together under the protection of a secular state. If you read William Cavanaugh's book, The Myth of Religious Violence, I think he makes a very strong historian's argument. And he argues in there that political scientists rarely admit this fact, but historians do, that religion does not play the central role in the violence. In fact, in the religious wars of the 16th and 17th century, you had periods where the Catholics were fighting Catholics, and you have periods where the Catholics actually allied with the Lutherans against other Catholics. So this kind of idea that it's always about religion is false, and what he argues is much of it is about the socio-economic and political scenarios. And religion is enlisted in that. And I think what's happened in the Middle East, you know, if you look at the 20th century, the Muslims were, probably Marxism played a more important role in the 20th century in the Middle East in terms of its attempts to rid itself from the yoke of colonialism and these things. But a lot of these Marxists, and lest us, you know, forget that the Palestinians were, it was all Marxist movements, you know, that transitioned into the Islamist approach to dealing with these problems. So I think that it's important that we see that religion historically is enlisted in violence that's much more to do with the socio-political and economic problems of a region. And I think for right now, the Muslims, we have a serious crisis because what's happened is what I would call traditional Islam, and I think people you know, who understand the history of Islam will note that the Muslims have been one of the exceptional religious civilizations that enabled other religions to live peacefully amongst them. I mean, this is simply a fact. The Ottomans had a multicultural civilization, and this was part of their understanding, that they were there to protect these other religions. They called them dhimmiyun, and there's a lot of attacks on the idea of dhimmatud, but the meaning of dhimma was the protected group, and they really saw it. And this is why you still have churches they're being destroyed by these people that really are, this is a perversion of Islam. It's not Islam, it's a perversion of Islam. And so the Muslims, those of us who you know, really are committed to this traditional Islam, you know, we're in a crisis situation. And undeniably, Islam is increasingly being portrayed as this monolithic monster that's threatening to gobble up the West, which I think is absurd. I mean, I think Nazi Germany was, the comparison is odious, or even to the fascists who, I mean, their technology, their organization. The Muslims can't get trains to run on time like Mussolini.